What if I told you that for some young men, the only way to prove they're a man is to survive a beating? That the only way to feel worthy of the brotherhood is through blood, bruises, and silence? Welcome to the hidden world of hazing in Black fraternities and the dangerous idea that masculinity has to be earned in pain. Welcome back to another episode of Cultured Unplugged. I am Uncle Chris, the host of the show, and I talk about everything related to hazing, those who survived from hazing, those who did not, parents who are willing to speak up, and those who are just basically wanted to share their testimony. We discuss and we invite anyone who's an ally essentially to the cause of helping to end it by being able to bring awareness and to talk about each and every story. But tonight's going to be a little different, so we'll get into that in a minute. But I will also say, for those who are new, if you're new here, welcome you. Please hit subscribe. I hope that we have earned your subscription, be able to hear and me talk about this particular topic tonight. If you're returning, thank you for your support. It is greatly appreciated. So today is going to be a little bit different as far as the video that I'm going to be dropping on this particular subject. We're going to get into it. Stick around. This is where the silence ends. What if I told you that for some young men, the only way to prove they're a man is to survive a beating? That the only way to feel worthy of the brotherhood is through blood, bruises, and silence? Welcome to the hidden world of hazing in Black fraternities and the dangerous idea that masculinity has to be earned in pain. I'm Uncle Chris, and this is Cultured Unplugged, where the silence ends. So tonight, we're diving deep into a painful reality that's really shaped generations of Black men. How hazing in Divine Nine fraternities often masquerades as a test of masculinity, and how that unspoken code can really cost lives. So to better understand, we look into the historical context. Where are we now? We have to understand really where it started. So the background of D9 orgs were really founded to uplift Black communities during a time of racial exclusion. By the mid-20th century, pledging practices began to really mirror the military-style initiations that you come to understand or see today. 1990, the official shift to membership intake process called MIP across Divine Nine. But underground practices continued, especially in fraternities. And this is 100% true just because everything became where it was once above ground, and you can clearly see how things were going in terms of like traditions that maybe even look silly, may even look uniformed in some way. It's just been pretty much further and deeper into the silence. I call it the hidden void. But for some, that shift felt like the death of something sacred. But for others, it was never about tradition. It was about control. It's about the aspect of what can I do to own you in some way during this time of however long I'm going to do that, being able to have this feeling of power. So we understand that masculinity has some intersect with violence in some cases through this medium. Based on the editorial by Gregory Parks, D9 fraternity hazing is often more physical, violent, and also personal. There's strong anxieties around masculinity and anti-intellectualism. Also homophobia is a part of that. So there's this unspoken really belief that real men don't cry, show emotions. Real men don't quit. Real men fight back. And if you can't take a hit, then well, you're not one of us. That's not brotherhood though. That's often really understood as abuse masquerading as identity. There's this idea that you have to be pushed in to this sense of pride and ownership, that you can bear the brunt of any kind of weight of stress and torment in order to prove that you're really a part of that, that elite class that they want to tell you that you're a part of. So let's just understand something. There's a psychology of what we call earning it. Really, it's based on survivors trying to justify the trauma by elevating the process. Self-worth becomes linked to the pain and that's really endured. And then there's a connection between overcoming adversity and emotional bonding. So there's this understanding that, what you'll probably often find is that it's intertwined. The idea of hazing is just this intertwined belief that you have to go through something in order to really be something. So for so many young men, especially those who have really faced hardship, surviving pledging becomes proof that really they're strong enough, loyal enough, maybe even black enough, that even understanding, are you man enough, but at what cost? What cost does it really mean for you to endure the most? At what length? There becomes a point where there's, for me, in my experience, I could say it's like you just can't stop. You're manipulated every step of the way. Your whole process from the time that you decide that it's something you want to get into or you want to be a part of, you're locked in. And to disband is to drop, essentially, would be like the worst thing you could do. So already it's something that you could see. It's you people, like I remember with the guys that did drop from the line, we didn't look, a lot of us didn't look at that person the same. We just didn't, we saw that person on campus or whatever, we kept it moving. Like I was essentially following right in line, not realizing, I'm just accosting someone else, someone we were clearly, really cool with. Next thing you know, once things really hit the fan and they're no longer part of our process, it's like we just pretty much kick them to the curb. So let's look at this another way. There's essentially, when we look at the case study of like Caleb Wilson, we understand his story by now. I've talked about it on the channel as well. We understand that Caleb Wilson was a student at Southern University, pledging Omega Psi Phi Incorporated. It was alleged that paddling and sleep deprivation really contributed, essentially. And then, of course, the beating of using the boxing glove to his chest essentially caused his death, right? So we look at basically understanding that hazing was a direct factor in that case. And maybe because we understand that hazing thrives in many different types of organizations, we kind of consider it like a stepping stone process. So you decide that you want to join any particular type of group. Let's just face it, if you're on a college campus, doesn't matter if it's HBCU or PWI, there's this sudden feeling that you want to be the first opportunity to get involved on campus affairs. Campus affairs are the organizations. That's really what makes the experience of college fun for a lot of young people. For me, it was like a no-brainer. I think my first org that I decided I wanted to be in was at the Mass Communications Club. Let me tell you, there was no hazing in the Mass Communications Club. However, that was an experience of an actual democratic experience. Like you had to earn your spot based on what what you put in, right? Like the activity level and those things. We weren't laying hands on each other. All that kind of came about through a lot of other orgs that were on campus. If you wanted to be a part of I think it was whatever dance team name it was, you had to go through something. There were others. So there's so many of these different orgs, honor societies that emulate what they have either heard or they understand, and it pretty much works in a 360. Like there's this, if I could say, a circle of hazing for the time you get on campus to the time you get out. That's essentially how it is. So to try to understand this a little bit better, when Caleb Wilson's case, what I'm trying to make a point here is you look at him wanting to be a part of him being a part of the marching band, makes you wonder, not saying I know whether there was or there wasn't as far as hazing in his case in the marching band level, but many marching bands in the sections, I can even point out the Robert Champion story, that there's going to be a level of hazing that it's experienced. So I can't say it's true for every marching band that's out there. All I can say is from using Robert Champion's story, that's essentially the process. So I'm aware that it's something that will pull you and manipulate you, that you're gonna have to kind of get through the same thing each and every time you try to join an org. So we understand also, looking at Marlon Jackson Jr. Marlon Jackson Jr., just to give you some background, was a student at Delaware State University, was pledging Kappa Alpha Psi. It is alleged, essentially, he did die in a car accident, but the family alleged that sleep deprivation, paddling, and then this pressure to endure, essentially, this is another example of a young Black man who was probably had to have proven some level of pressure to be able to keep on going through this process that, like I said, again, the family alleged that this was a direct result of hazing. But we look at it like, just like Caleb, Marlon's death was ruled, as something that it could have been prevented. What led up to the accident, as far as Marlon Jackson Jr.'s case, being sleep deprived, there should have been, in every step of the level of where these two cases have happened, where there was some type of really guidance, someone to have truly evaluated. The problem I have, and I understand this, is that when you have members who are 40 years old and plus, 30-something years old, who's doing the checks and balances, if they're supporting it, if they're the ones that are even a part of it. Like, we understand that Breonna Gather's case and Victoria Carter, who passed from a car accident at East Carolina University, they were pledging Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated. The information came out after Line sisters were deposed. It came out that they were doing all these activities, all these insane activities that led to them being sleep deprived, that essentially it all ended in an unfortunate accident. Okay, so it's the same process. This need, we look in, even like, doesn't believe it's just men, but also women too. It's just how much, as far as on being Black, really plays into it. There's a historical feeling, historical understanding that they went through it. My so-and-so went through it. They did it. They got it through the mud. And now you're going to have to do it. You're in this room. Everybody's been in through this. And even I talked to the couple who are Divine Nine members, the wife, essentially, basically, in that conversation. You should watch the video, by the way. Very deep. It's called You Knew What You Signed Up For. You can find it on the live. But I remember just listening to her speak. And she said, hey, I went through this. I would never want to put nobody else through this. And there are a lot of those people, like you yourself probably, who are a part of an organization, a D9 organization, probably had the opportunity to put your hands on someone else, but something in you, the moral compass, for some reason, kind of woke up and said, why would I want to do that? That doesn't make sense. I would want to put nobody through what I went through. So then why is it still happening? Right? So it's this constant ritual. It's this constant ritual and this understanding of trying to keep this silence thriving. Here's the next thing too, and this is a little difficult for those that may hear this. There might be some idea that you may think I'm wrong in this, but stick with me. There seems to be also this gay phobia that no one talks about, or um, or even this pervasiveness aspect. I would say that's totally different subjects there in itself, but there's this non-heteronormative members are forced to conceal the identities of anything that's against who they really are. This use of masculinity and homophobia to really gatekeep the leadership, weaponizing the fear of being perceived as gay. That's a deeper conversation, obviously, and that's something I just feel like I have to hit, just for the fact of there's this overly increased focus on being as masculine as possible. That could be a lot of subjectiveness to a lot of brothers and what that looks like. I'll say that. But does the measure of a man equate to the sexuality with this and this need of having to continue to have this intensity about yourself, completely changing who you are to be this a super assertive person on your own, this particular process of joining an organization like this? When manhood is defined by violence and dominance, there's no room really for softness, no space for vulnerability, and definitely no space for openly queer brothers. That's not just toxic, it's lethal. We look at the alumni influence. Alumni continue to shape the hazing culture. Many of them come back to these college campuses, especially during homecomings, where alumni is going to be coming back anyway, but other occasions where they come back and visit, or that person, that line goes to another school to get hazed, to be a part of that culture essentially. So that's something to be understood. There's a influence of having alumni come back and lay hands on other people's kids, young people who are all essentially going for the same goal of being a part of that organization, willing to do as whatever possible. There's this control in the intake process, which define the masculinity standards as well. The lack of alumni accountability allows for these predatory behaviors. We see that in many cases where a lot of the alumni, like I said again, are a part of it, promote it. I clearly remember many members who were chapter supervisors, the ones who were watching over things, different processes, the advisors, the ones that even taught classes. Crazy enough, they know these professors are not like illiterate to the whole understanding, and some of them have been members themselves or are members themselves and are actively participating in that process, because there's this I want to say there is a sacred aspect to this experience, that for them, that bond that they're trying to build and bring is this social construct, this mindset, this ideology, if you will, that I'm going to do all this harm, and the day that person crosses, I'm gonna shower them with all the love. They're gonna get all the hugs and the daps, that all that changes. Come on now. And then they get an opportunity, from what I understand, the ones that just crossed would consider neophytes. They get an opportunity. They want to get an opportunity then to go back into the next line, to repeat the same cycle, essentially. That's the harm that we don't know about. This is the harm that we don't see. We tell these stories because it needs to be told. We have to understand that the idea, the ideology behind it, what keeps this thriving. And let's be clear, this isn't about college kids that's just wilding out, having horseplay, or just, acting a fool. Alumni are often the architects of this pain. And until the D9 orgs confront that truth, hazing will stay alive and well, just really under different names. They'll be another way around. It's always going to be a loophole if there isn't some type of checks and balances. The school organizations, they both have a part to play into keeping things safe, as long as that chapter is going to use their national name. Then they all have to abide by what is going to keep people safe. A third party org to at least preside, in each college, just to ensure that there's a actual anti-hazing facility, a department, I should say. So anti-hazing department, and their job would be to keep things regulated. They intake anonymous numbers, hotline number, essentially a hotline number. People can either, drop a QR code. I'm just thinking off the head. I'm just really thinking these are just the clear things that should be there, right? It should be a part of the campus safety phone call directory. As far as I'm concerned, that's just the way it should be. But this is the thing. People, even the security guards, people just have put it under the rug as for so many years. Either they know somebody that's been a part of an organization, or they're gonna get coverage. They're gonna get protection every step of the way. It's only when, again, you have a Caleb Wilson situation, a Robert Champion situation, when a death happens, then everybody want to run scared and try to say, well, shift the blame to somebody else. We've got to do better. We've got to think about it. And parents, what your duty and role is just to make sure that because let's face it, that's your child, no matter how old they are. People say, they're adults and making their own decisions, but if they're coming to you and calling you and asking you for book fare and everything else, food and meal ticket and all that stuff, then they're still your kid. And you want to make sure that they're safe, that you have peace of mind while you're home, wherever, that they're going to be okay, if they're going to be in or have any interest in joining an organization. So the pattern is bigger than just one org. We understand that now. I think by now, since you've seen many of the videos that I have dropped, you'll see plenty of these similarities. The nature in which and how the passing happens is similar for some and others different. But we see these patterns with Alpha Kappa Alpha. We see it with Kappa Alpha Psi. We see it with Omega Psi Phi Incorporated. We see it with Phi Beta Sigma, so Sigma Gamma Rho, and I can go on and on. All have histories in relation to the pattern of the problem. But how do we correct that problem? How do we step in to really shift that? So masculinity used as a weapon across the board. And I mean that of course, I'm talking about the black fraternities now. Masculinity is being used as a weapon across the board. Much to be said about that. Something to think about. Pain is really a currency for belonging. This need for acceptance. This need for wanting to be a part of a community. I will say, in this weird setting, I've seen firsthand, going to the informational settings, the barbecues, going to the actual events that the community with it, the aspect of that made you feel like you were missing out. That's where that aspect of it tries to pull you in. And you find that, again, the actual acts to be able to join, how dangerous it can be to possibly lose your life, injured forever, all in this name of feeling brotherhood. So this isn't, again, about one org. This is about a pattern, a mentality, a legacy of really unspoken expectations wrapped in pride and pain. So it comes to understanding, like, we've got to make some changes. We've got to be able to shift the focus, make some pivots, and really demanding more from our schools. Make sure these organizations are also abiding by the rules as well, that there are safeguards that are put in place. If you're watching this and you survived hazing, let me just say this. You didn't need to be broken to be built. You were already enough. And if you're someone who was ever asked, why would they let themselves be hazed? Remember this: when manhood is dangled like a prize, people will do anything to prove they deserve it. Think of the movie, if you will, one last reflection. The movie Burning Sands. When Square in the movie, if you haven't seen the movie, see the movie. But the character Square said, after this is over, after I've crossed, no one's gonna know me for being square no more. They're gonna know me for being earnest, who I am. A lot of young men, including myself at one point, said, I want people to see me for who I am. Beyond just having these letters, like, these letters would be great, but it's the letters is being used as a conduit to find identity. And this false sense of what masculinity looks like is what keeps people hungry to find a way to fill that void. Manhood isn't wrapped in getting beat up, how much you can take to get abused. The real measure of a man is the work that you do to self-improve, to do the work with your mind, your mentality, taking care of yourself, owning up to your mistakes. That's what real masculinity is. This should never be the same equation, and I hope you know that. I'd also, if you enjoyed everything I talked about tonight with you, share this video. Start the conversation. Parents, ask the questions when you're visiting with your son, with your daughter, when you're doing these college tours, as they call them, as I've done them. Ask the questions. What safeguards are put in place in terms of anti-hazing? Is there anything spelled out as far as training regards to anti-hazing? Has there been any cases, there have been known cases that have been reported? A lot of these schools are not reporting, which they will have to do in the future. Not far from now, they will have to start reporting this data. If you're interested, go to hazinginfo.org. Get the latest data on hazing, where it stands. I'm talking about all the reporting of cases of anti-hazing cases that have been put up essentially on the website. Just visit it, take a look. You'll be surprised, I'm telling you, what you'll find. But again, share this video, start the conversation, follow Cultured Unplugged for more stories, more truth, and more light where it's really long been dark, it's been silenced. I'm Uncle Chris, and this is where the silence ends. Thank you.